On Thanksgiving Eve, 1971, a man walked onto a commercial airplane in Portland, Oregon, hijacked it for $200,000, then jumped out of the plane mid-flight over the wilderness of the Pacific Northwest and vanished without a trace. To this day, the FBI has never found him, dead or alive. This is the story of D.B. Cooper, the only unsolved skyjacking in the history of American aviation. On November 24, 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper approached the ticket counter of Northwest Orient Airlines in Portland, Oregon, and paid cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle. There was nothing about him that stood out. He was somewhere in his mid-40s, dressed in a dark business suit with a neat black tie, carrying a plain briefcase. Witnesses later described him as calm, polite, almost forgettable. He boarded Flight 305 without incident, took a seat near the back of the cabin, and waited quietly as the plane prepared for takeoff. Not a single person on that flight had any reason to suspect that anything was wrong. As the plane lifted off into the evening sky, Cooper settled into his seat and calmly ordered a bourbon and soda from the flight attendant. He lit a cigarette, made light conversation, and behaved exactly like any other business traveler heading home. For the first several minutes of that flight, everything felt completely ordinary. Just another short evening hop from Portland to Seattle, carrying 36 unsuspecting passengers who had no idea their flight was about to become a piece of American history. Then Cooper reached into his pocket and passed a folded note to the flight attendant sitting nearest to him. At first, she assumed it was nothing more than a phone number, the kind of note passengers sometimes slip to attendants, and almost slid it into her pocket without reading it. But something about his expression made her open it instead. The note said he had a bomb in his briefcase. When she quietly asked to see it, Cooper cracked the case open just enough to reveal a tangle of wires connected to several red cylindrical sticks. His demands were precise, almost rehearsed. $200,000, paid entirely in $20 bills. 4 parachutes, 2 main, 2 reserve. And the bills, he insisted, had to be unmarked and non-sequential, light enough to carry while skydiving. This wasn't the panic of a desperate man. This was a carefully thought-out plan, down to the smallest detail. When the plane touched down in Seattle, Cooper kept his word. He allowed all 36 passengers to leave the aircraft in exchange for the cash and the parachutes, which arrived exactly as he'd requested. But he ordered the flight crew, the pilot, co-pilot, and 1 remaining flight attendant, to stay aboard. Then he instructed them to take off again, this time heading south toward Mexico City, flying low and slow with the landing gear down. Somewhere over the dense, rain-soaked forests of southwestern Washington, a little after 8 o'clock that night, Cooper made his move. He lowered the plane's rear staircase, strapped the money to his body, secured his parachute, and stepped out into the freezing, pitch-black night. Below him lay nothing but mountains, forest, and darkness for miles in every direction. No one on that plane ever saw him again, and no one on the ground ever reported seeing him land. What followed became one of the largest manhunts in FBI history, an investigation that agents codenamed Norjack. Search teams combed the forests of the Pacific Northwest for weeks, using helicopters, ground crews, and even military personnel. Over the years that followed, investigators built composite sketches from witness descriptions, cross-referenced military parachute training records, and chased down more than 800 separate suspects. And yet, year after year, every single lead eventually went cold. Then, in February of 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand along the banks of Washington's Columbia River when he uncovered something strange. Bundles of decaying, weathered $20 bills buried just beneath the surface. When the FBI examined the serial numbers, they matched Cooper's ransom money exactly. It remains, to this day, the only piece of physical evidence connected to the case ever recovered. And rather than solving the mystery, it only deepened it. Investigators floated name after name over the years. Richard McCoy, a former paratrooper who carried out a strikingly similar hijacking just months later, seemed almost too perfect a match, until his own alibi and physical differences ruled him out. Kenneth Christensen, a former Northwest Orient employee, drew suspicion decades later when his family came forward with unsettling deathbed confessions. Robert Rackstraw, a Vietnam veteran with a history of criminal behavior, was investigated so heavily that some journalists were convinced they'd finally cracked the case. Yet even he was eventually cleared. Each of these men had circumstantial ties to the case, and each was eventually ruled out or simply left unconfirmed. The evidence never quite strong enough to close the file for good. Beyond these three, dozens of amateur investigators and armchair detectives have spent their entire lives chasing this case, poring over flight manifests, old military records, and grainy composite sketches, convinced they've found the missing piece no one else noticed. Documentaries have been made. Books have been written. Entire online communities exist solely to debate this one unsolved night in 1971. And yet, after everything, after every tip, every lead, every promising suspect, the identity of the man who called himself Dan Cooper remains exactly as much of a mystery today as it was on the morning after he jumped. The only direct physical evidence ever tied to Cooper himself was the black tie he left behind on the plane before he jumped, along with a mother-of-pearl tie clip. Decades later, forensic technology had advanced enough that investigators were able to extract a partial DNA profile from that tie. But even with modern science on their side, it was never enough to match a name to the sample. No fingerprints on file matched. No missing persons report ever lined up perfectly. The case simply refused to close. In July of 2016, after 45 years without a single confirmed break in the case, the FBI officially suspended its active investigation, redirecting its resources to more solvable cases. D.B. Cooper's hijacking remains, to this day, the only unsolved act of air piracy in the entire history of American commercial aviation, a case that outlived the agents who first opened it. No body was ever found. No parachute. No confirmed identity. Over 50 years later, D.B. Cooper is still out there somewhere. Or he isn't. And we may never know which. If you want more real unsolved mysteries like this one, subscribe. I post a new case every week.